Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you are interested in the process of freeze drying and you're curious about what happens when you freeze dry meat, this video is for you. Recently I did a video where I was testing out some breakfast product to see not only how they would freeze dry, but how well they could be reconstituted to make a viable and tasty breakfast. We had some great success with that, and we had some miserable failures with it. So I'm figuring this video is not going to be any different. What I did was I went to the store and I bought a bunch of different kinds of meats. I tried to get as much of it as I could on sale because I didn't want to just dump a bunch of money into this for the sake of doing it. But then I freeze dried them because I wanted to see what would come back and what wouldn't. All the meats I bought were intended to be freeze dried raw because I wanted to see what happens when you store meats that have not really been prepared for eating in any way. Then after we get them freeze dried, we're going to reconstitute them, we're going to cook them, and we're going to see what we ended up with. And I hope it's good. I have my concerns about some of the things, and some of these are things you specifically asked for. So if you asked for this, stick around. So let's dive into this and let's see exactly what I did so that we can see exactly what we ended up with. Okay, we're going to start with two just plain old pork chops. Got this pack of 5 for $5. We're not going to do anything to them other than just set them out onto the freeze drying tray. And the rest of them I will put away for later. To go on the tray with it, I picked up these chicken breast skewers for $5. These are sweet chili lime flavored, and that looked like a good way to do some chicken. It's already chopped up. We're going to take them off the skewers because I don't know how those will act in the freeze dryer. I also don't want to package that up and risk puncturing the packaging. Ooh, these are drippy. All right, so we're just going to get that meat off of there. I'm just going to do all of these on the same tray. Gonna separate them. Let's move these over. Separate all this meat so that each piece can properly freeze dry. Let's cover this up. Let's get this in the freezer and let it be pre-freezing. Next up, we're going to do this package of finely diced beef. This is a beef that's processed for doing tacos. You can see there's a lot of fat in that, so I'm not really sure what to expect from it. And it was on clearance because it's about to go out of date. We're just going to put the entirety of this package onto a tray, spread it out a little bit. Time to go wash my hands again. Cover this with a lid. Let's get it in the freezer and let it be pre-freezing. Next up, I've got a pack of tilapia fillets. Not bad, 2 for $5. Now I went with this because tilapia is not a terribly complex fish. So I figured this would give us about the cleanest result we can expect. Just a plain, no frills whitefish. We're going to put both fillets on here. Go wash my hands again. Then we've got this single serving of Atlantic salmon. There's nothing, no spices to this. It's just a smoked Norwegian salmon. So we're going to get this out of the package and get it onto our freeze drying tray. We're going to get a lid on that and get it in the freezer. And then last but not least, we're going to put in something that a lot of y'all have been asking for. We're going to do some shrimp. We're not going to do all these shrimp, just some. This is one that I'm equally curious about. A lot of y'all are curious about how shrimp will do in the freeze dryer. So I'm going to put in about that much. These are already frozen, so we don't have to worry so much about pre-freezing, but since everything else that's going in this batch is in the freezer, we're just going to put it in with them. Put a lid on it. That one's going in the freezer. And you will see all in the morning when we put these all in the freeze dryer. Once all the meats were processed and pre-frozen, I got them into the freeze dryer and ran them for about a day and a half. When you're dealing with this much uncooked meat, there's a lot of moisture in it, and it's got to have plenty of time to properly pull it out in order for this to be viable for long-term storage. And then once it came out of the freeze dryer, I went through the process of bagging each item individually. Some of the items I split into smaller portions, just because when I go to reconstitute it, I don't necessarily want to do all of it just for the sake of doing all of it. So I split some of it out to go into my storage and some of it to use for this video. Then once everything was bagged up, I put it in the vacuum sealer. And now we have preserved raw meats that should be good for 20 years or more. So here's what we ended up with. It's just a big bag of meat. What's amazing though is how lightweight it is. So here we have our cubed beef, our taco meat. Then we have our smoked salmon. Now I did realize when I was preparing this that the smoked salmon is actually already cooked. I thought it was just smoked seasoning, but then I got looking closer at it and realized it is smoked. So it's already fully cooked. So we're gonna reconstitute this one a little differently. We have our shrimp. We have our chicken cubes, pork chops, and last but not least, our tilapia. So now that we've got everything done and freeze dried, now we need to get on with reconstituting. So let's see how this is gonna go. Let's start off with the pork chops because I think these are gonna take the longest to reconstitute. Let's open them up and see what we ended up with a couple of weeks after packaging. They still smell great. They look great. It just looks like a pork chop. So we're just gonna pour some cold water in here because we wanna reconstitute the meat, not cook it. And once again, because we are dealing with meats, we can overfill that. We can use as much water as we have available to us, and it's not going to ruin anything by having too much water in it. This is one of those times when having too much is better than not having enough. We're gonna zip that up, set those aside. Next, let's do our cubed beef. Get in that and see what we ended up with. Really no smell other than just kind of a dry, beefy smell. Let's get some water in that. Now this is one of those processes too where you can kind of double dip a little bit. For one, if you really want to get good flavor into these, you can reconstitute them with broth or stock. But you can also add your seasonings like salt and pepper in at this phase, and it'll help to kind of infuse those flavors into the meat. And that's what we're gonna do right now. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt and pepper in this because I wanna make sure that we get just a very natural flavor back from it. Get some of that in there, not too much. And then some of this coarse ground black pepper. Zip it up, get a little bit of air out of it, give it a little shaky shaky, and set that aside. All right, we've got our chicken cubes. Ooh, got a nice little hiss out of that. Ooh, those smell really good. That almost makes me want to just reach in and eat one, except for the fact that it's uncooked. That would not be good. All right, let's get some water in here. This one I'm going to put a little bit less water in because there was a sauce on this and I don't necessarily want to just wash that away. We'll add a little bit and then if we need to, we'll go back and add more. Next up, we've got our shrimp. These just kind of blew me away with how almost non-existent they are. They're so light and airy and they've got that straight up shrimp smell. They smell like they came fresh out of the Gulf. Let's get some water in there. I bet these will come back quick. As spongy as they feel right now. And we've got our tilapia. These I'm really curious about. I'm not really sure how raw fish fillets are going to come back, and I'm really looking forward to trying that out. Let's pour up the last bit of our water in here. Let's zip that up. Set these kind of on their side so we keep them flat. And then last but not least, we have our smoked salmon. Now the smoked salmon, I ended up having to break up into little pieces before I could freeze dry it. The reason for that is it sat up too proud in that pan and there is very limited space in the freeze dryer. So anything that sits above the lid of the pan is not gonna fit. So I ended up having to break it down, and in the process of doing that, the skin came off and I just ended up with these chunks of smoked salmon, which is fine. Now these I'm going to reconstitute with some hot water. I don't want to necessarily cook it, but I do want to make sure that it comes back in a state that I would want to eat it. A lot of people will eat smoked salmon cold. That's cool. I want to try it hot. It's my show, my rules. Now this one I don't want to just overdo with water. Ooh, wow. It's releasing that smoke. Oh, that smells delicious. Oh, I think that's going to be good stuff. Let's zip that up. Set it aside, And we will come back in a few minutes once everything has had a chance to reconstitute, and then we're going to start cooking some stuff. All right, it's time to get in here and start seeing what we've got. I'm going to start with the shrimp because I think they probably are the one thing that would have come back the quickest. So let's go take a look at that. Let's open this up. Wow, that's amazing. These look like fresh shrimp. Let me pour off our excess water and then let's get them out and have a closer look. Let's get our little Pyrex plate out. Look at those. This was one of the things that I got a whole lot of people asking about, was how shrimp would do. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, looking at them, smelling them, touching them, couldn't tell y'all that these had been anything but maybe frozen. I'm gonna blot these dry so we get the extra moisture off the surface. Hit them with a little cooking spray, little Tony Chachere's. Get them flipped and hit the other side with some seasoning. Let's get to the grill. Let's get these out on the grill. So there we have a plate of freshly grilled, freeze-dried, and reconstituted Cajun-style shrimp. Let's get in here and try one of these and see what we ended up with. That one looks so perfectly done. Look at that. Let's give it a taste because it can look absolutely amazing and taste like garbage. Let's give that a try. Flavor-wise, these are amazing. They're a little bit rubbery. They taste like overdone shrimp. Let's try another one and see if we get the same result. Same thing with that one. The first initial bite, it will kind of fool you. It makes you think everything's fine. Somewhere deep in that shrimp though, there's something that just wants to be a little bit rubbery. The taste of this, the general texture is great. The rubberiness is not enough to put me off of doing this again. So the question becomes, are raw shrimp worth freeze drying for later use? Absolutely. Especially if you're going someplace where you don't want to keep up with a cooler or something like that. You can tote along some freeze-dried shrimp and they will absolutely get the job done. Moving on. All right, next up, let's give our smoked salmon a try and see how that turned out since it's already cooked. Now, it has completely come apart. It did not bind well. Let's see if I can get a sample out of here to give it a try. I mean, it's completely just disassembled itself. It smells good and looks decent. Let's give it a taste. It's good. I'm not a giant salmon fan, so this one wasn't one that I just really went into thinking, oh, this is going to be something I'm excited about. Now, the fact that it did come apart so much, I could still use this. I could pour this on some rice or something like that. Just take some white rice and just pour all of that on top of it. You'd have an outstanding flavor for a campfire dish. So it's not unusable, but just go in knowing that's what you're going to get. You're going to get salmon soup. All right, so now let's give our chicken cubes a try and see what we ended up with that. These look really good as far as frozen chicken. It smells amazing. That seasoning that they put on at Kroger, that really smells good. And the texture is just right. So let's pour off this liquid. Let me wash my hands and we'll see what we ended up with. Texture seems to be just fine. They are cooking up nicely. Look at that. These look perfect. Let's hope they taste that way. All right, here we have it. Our freeze-dried and reconstituted seasoned chicken chunks. They smell absolutely incredible. They're still sizzling. The rest of them that are in the pan back there, you can hear that. Sounds like fajitas going. All right, let's get us a chunk of that and give that a taste. So far, everything looks like it should, acts like it should. Let's see if it tastes like it should. That is absolutely perfect. Everything came back exactly the way you'd want it to. Tastes just like chicken is supposed to taste, but it's shelf stable for a couple of decades when we prepare it like this. So. I'm going to take this in and share with the family because I've got way too much food still to go to sit here and eat much more of this. But it is shockingly good. All right, next up I want to see how our raw cubed beef turned out. This is our taco meat. Looks like it's coming back very nicely. Let me pour off this liquid. The liquid that came off of this is very dark. That's interesting. Let me pour this out in our frying pan so you can see it. There it is. It came back darker than it went in. That's interesting. All right, we've already seasoned this up. We added salt and pepper while it was reconstituting. We hit it with a little bit of cooking oil. Let's get this on fire. So here is our freeze-dried, reconstituted, and then cooked coarse ground beef. It smells wonderful. It cooked up exactly the way you want it to. Rendered off a lot of liquid, rendered off a lot of fat. Now that also brings me to a different topic of keep in mind when you're buying the meats for these projects, this particular cut I would not have done for long-term storage. I would do this if I was going on a trip where I wanted to pack lightweight when it comes to food, but I would not buy this meat to put away for long-term storage simply because it just had way too much fat in it. But let's give this a try, see how it comes back. Has a great flavor. That little bit of salt and pepper that I added to the bag really just got deep into that meat. That's the way to do it when you're going with ground beef. Put those seasonings in there while it's reconstituting. Let it just inhale all that flavor. The meat is a tad on the chewy side, but I can't say that it's not the cut of the meat. I know a lot of these coarse ground beefs like this tend to be a less quality meat, but it's also very fatty and can end up a little chewy. So I'm not going to say it's a result of the process of freeze drying it, but I'm not going to say it's not, but it is good. 10 out of 10 would do that again. All right, we are back with our tilapia fillets. I'm going to get these out and see what we're working with. Look at that. One thing I want to let y'all know about going in this is the larger these pieces of meat are, regardless of what kind of meat they are, the longer it's going to take to reconstitute. These fillets have been going for probably about an hour now, just soaking in water. I thought these were just going to come back super quick because they're very thin and flaky, but it did take them a minute to get back, but it looks like they've come back just the way you want them to. So now we need to get them ready to cook them up. Spray them with a little cooking spray. And then once again, we're just going to hit them with some Tonys. It's a perfect seasoning for seafood of any kind. And we're ready to get these on the grill. There it is. Fresh tilapia right off the grill. It grilled up nicely. Looks a little dry on the outside, but that's mostly from the cooking process that I used. But what's really going to matter is how it tastes. Let's get us a bite and see how this turned out. It smells delicious. Not too fishy. A little bit of char. I think this is going to be good. Bon appetit. That is surprisingly good. I did not expect it to turn out quite this good. That little Coleman grill right there gives just enough char to add the flavor into this meat. It's almost got a smokiness to it, but that turned out really, really good. It's slightly on the dry side, but not to the point that I wouldn't want to eat it. It has come back nicely, and I think if I let it absorb water even longer, that some of that dryness might not even be there. And this is another thing you could try, like maybe with some chicken stock for just a little bit of extra flavor, a little bit of extra fat added back into it. But I see nothing wrong with that. I would do that again in a heartbeat. That's yummy. And last but not least, we have our pork chop. This took longer than any of the other meats to reconstitute. It was a little over about an hour and 15 minutes that it's been sitting. But let's get this out. Look at that. The texture is perfect. I don't find any tough spots in it. We're going to do this just like our others with a little bit of cooking spray and some Tonys. Now let's get it on the grill. So while our pork chop is grilling up, this is as good a time as any to tell you, please, if you're enjoying this content, if you like these little science experiments with the freeze dryers, give us a thumbs up. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you can be made aware of all upcoming videos. And as always, feed the algorithm. Leave a comment and tell me what you were the most surprised by, or what you thought the best looking thing was, or what maybe you thought wasn't going to work out that did. Every little comment helps, even if it's just to pop in and say, hey. And if you guys like this video and want to make suggestions for other freeze drying experiments you'd like for me to try, please let me know in the comments and I will look into that too. Oh, by the way, I haven't reminded you guys of this in a long time. I'm also over on Instagram and I do share things on there that I don't share here. So if you're curious as to what I'm up to on a semi-regular basis, go over on Instagram and check it out. All right, let's get back to this pork chop. Certainly looking yummy. So here we are. Freeze-dried and reconstituted and grilled pork chops. This being a large and intact piece of meat gives me a little caution when it comes to my expectations for how it's going to come back. I know this is a viable thing, and I've seen people do things like steaks and bring them back and then grill them. I can't say it looks like the ideal way to do things, but once again, we're experimenting with things for taking either lightweight foods on the trail or for doing long-term storage in the event of lean times or disasters. But you can see there's juice coming off of this pork chop. It looks like it has come back nicely. Let me get a cut of this and see what we're dealing with. There we go. Looks like it's cooked well all the way through. I mean, this looks like a fresh grilled pork chop. Let's give it a taste. See what we've done here. Once again, the flavor is terrific. I'm shocked at how good this tastes. But that being said, it is dry. And it's hard for me to say if that dryness is a result of the freeze drying process, or maybe I just didn't reconstitute it long enough, or maybe that's just the way it works with this kind of stuff. I mean, I tried to make sure that I didn't overcook it. I'm always a little nervous with these kind of things, that there is a tendency to overcook them because I'm scared of what would happen if I undercook them. I'm still very young in this process of freeze drying and having confidence in the things that I'm making. So while it is a little dry, it's that kind of dry that I would not want to serve it to somebody as a special meal, but if I was at camp and I was eating this, it would be gourmet. All right, so that is it for this little experiment with freeze drying meats. I think I'm starting to get the meat sweats from eating all this stuff, but I'm really happy with the way this went. The things that I'm learning in the process of learning how to freeze dry and experimenting with things like raw meats to see what I can expect on the other side. This has been a great learning experience for me, and I hope you feel the same way too. I really do hope that you guys are enjoying the time that you're spending, even though a lot of you have pointed out that you don't have a freeze dryer and are not really in a position to get one. I understand that, and I hope that you're enjoying living vicariously through me by doing these little experiments. This is a lot of fun for me, and I'm glad to have had the opportunity. I could not have done any of it without you guys in my audience. Thank you for the constant love and support. It keeps me coming back and wanting to do more like this. So if you want me to do more like this, please leave me a comment, tell me about it. And until the next time, prepare for the world that you live in, not the one you wish existed. We'll see you around.